Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's edition of From the Boardroom to the Locker Room as we look back to a fantastic sporting weekend of incredible sporting action, both on the rugby fields, the football fields, and the cricket fields of the world. Let's start off on the cricket fields, shall we? And take a look at some of the weekend's action. We start with news of the Indian and Australian women's clash in the Cricket World Cup, and what a game that turned out to be. The highest ever run chase in a one-day international, successful run chase, that is, in a one-day international by the Australians. With an over to spare, Indian women got off to a really good start. 330 they got in their 48.5 overs. They were 7 balls short of facing 50 overs, and that's unfortunate for them as they crumbled towards the end of their innings. They were 309 for 6 and ended up at 330 all out. They lost their way a little bit at the end, but I guess they would have thought with 330 runs on the board that victory was not going to be well out of their reach. Well, it certainly was in the end. The Indian innings, thanks to some fantastic batting from Rawal up front, who got 75, and Mandana, who got 80. They got off to a cracker of the start, 155 before they lost their first wicket, and then they did continue on quite nicely, 192 for 2, 234 for 3, and then they managed to get themselves up to 309 for 6 and then completely capitulated at 330 all out. Australia came in. They got off to a relatively good start. They got off to an 85-run opening partnership before Phoebe Litchfield lost her wicket, but that was just after 11 overs. So they were going at around 8 and over at that point, which was very, very good for them. And then a wonderful partnership with Bethan Moody, along with the captain, Elisa Healy. They moved the score on dramatically to 168 for 2. Eventually, they got to 265 for 4, and you thought, well, they were really cruising. And then a couple of wickets fell, 279 for 5, 299 for 6, 303 for 7. And they had to end up with Elise Perry, who had gone off retired hurt. She batted at 3. She had to come back on with what was a suspected hamstring problem, and she managed to carry the team through. She ended up on 47 not out. And 331 for 7, Australia. Magnificent victory for them. We're not going to argue about who the best ladies cricket team in the world is, because they are by far the best team in the world are the Australian women. So the situation as far as the Women's Cricket World Cup is concerned, as far as the tables are concerned, Australia now top that group. 4 matches played, they have 7 points. England have played 3, won all 3, so they have 6 points. Australia gave more, which was the drawn match or the abandoned game because of rain. Then the Indian women are sitting in 3rd place with 4 points from 4 matches. South Africa have a game in hand, as do New Zealand, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. And of those, the South Africans, the New Zealanders, and the Bangladeshis could, depending on how results go, force India down. So South Africa will be looking to get to 3rd. They want to stay away from playing Australia, who, if they continue on, that will be top of the group. So 1 place 4 and 2 place 3 in the Cricket World Cup. As far as the fixtures are concerned, well, the action is fast and furious. South Africa are in action today. They play Bangladesh. A win for them there will solidify them up into 3rd place in the group. Tomorrow, New Zealand play Sri Lanka. On Wednesday, England play Pakistan. Big game for Pakistan. A loss there could see them pretty much be out of the tournament. And then Australia play Bangladesh on Thursday. It should be a relatively easy win for them there. And then on Friday, South Africa plays Sri Lanka. If they can get through Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, South Africa during the course of this week, they should be guaranteed of a top 4 spot in the competition. They do, of course, still have to play Pakistan after that, and then their last game is against Australia. Hopefully, it is not going to be one in which they need to win to stay in the competition. And they, of course, will come up against the Australians in the last match of the round-robin stage. Right, other cricket action over the course of the weekend, and again, that's currently underway still as we are putting this program together for you, but Sinren Muthusamy, career best figures of 6 for 117, helping South Africa bowl Pakistan out for 378. having resumed on 313 for 5 on the second morning of the first test against the South Africans at the Gaddafi Stadium in Lahore. The left-arm spinner claimed 2 wickets and 2 balls for the second time in the innings and 3 in and over to reduce the hosts from 362 for 5 to 362 for 8, having also lost 3 wickets on the same total on day 1 when they slipped from 192 for 2 to 199 for 5. Mohammad Rizwan's counter-attack in fine style reached 75 from 140 balls, performed with the Sami spun one fiercely to find the right-hander's edge, Kalvarani claiming an excellent catch. So that was the Pakistanis bowled out by the South Africans in the test match in Lahore. That one will continue on through the course of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we shall let you know on further programs on From the Boardroom to the Locker Room how that test match ended. Now, there's another test match going on at the moment, and it's one that's quite interesting because I think many would have thought that the West Indies would have just completely bowled over the Indians, I should say the Indians would have completely annihilated the West Indians. Well, I can tell you right now, it's nothing like that, because even though they bowled them over in the first innings, it was a maiden century from opener John Campbell. It's his first test century as the defiant West Indies moved 18 runs from making India bat again on day 4 in the second test. The West Indies 252 for lunch in their second innings at the Arun Jaitley Stadium. Campbell made 115 before being trapped LBW. So very fine performance. Remember, of course, this match had at first Mammoth 175, while 129 for Supman Gill, 518 for the loss of 5 declared. Then they bowled the West Indies out rather cheaply for 248. Enforcing the follow-on, West Indies in their second innings moved along to 277 for the loss of 4. And that test match continues on through the course of the day. It will be a massive achievement if the West Indies can hang in there, but there is still quite a lot of time to go in that test match. And then as far as the cricket fixtures are concerned for the rest of the week, as I say, Pakistan, South Africa goes on, India, the West Indies goes on, then there's also the South African local cricket South Africa series that all get underway tomorrow. The Dolphins play the Tuskers, the Warriors play Boerlands, the Titans play the Lions, Western Province play the Northwest Dragons. So those matches get underway from tomorrow, and on Friday in our preview show, we'll also have a review of some of those matches for you and who got runs and how things went. Just one other result from the weekend, and a rather disappointing one indeed. I know it's a South African, perhaps even second and a half, maybe third string side that went up to Namibia, and the expected return of Quinton de Kock was a bit of a failure. He didn't do very well, did he? Neither did the South Africans, losing to an ecstatic Namibian home crowd in a T20 international. South Africa only scoring 130-odd, and the Namibians knocking those runs off. So that game won by the Namibians. Not the best South Africa T20 side out there for that tournament. Right, let's have a look at some tennis news. And Coco Gauff beat Jessica Pegula in an All-American Wuhan Open final. She said her stubborn decision to defy her coach and play in China after a tough US Open had paid off after she beat Jessica Pegula 6-4, 7-5 to clinch the third WTA 1000 title of her career. The 21-year-old Gauff secured the Wuhan Open without dropping a set after an hour and 42 minutes in the central Chinese city, and became the first player in the Open area to win her first 9 hard-court finals. It was a great performance by her. In the first final between the former doubles partners, Gauff came from behind several times in the second set against her fellow American. The pair had contrasting routes to the final, with Gauff dropping a mere 16 games, while Pegula battled through 3-setters in all 8 of the period's matches in China. So well done to Coco Gauff. She, of course, the victor there. Aryna Sabalenka was beaten by Jessica Pegula in the semi-finals of that tournament. So good result for her. Now, the other story, in a fairy tale one at that, world number 204, Valentin Vacherot, has beat his cousin Arthur Rinderknecht to win the Shanghai Masters 4-6, 6-3, 6-3, and has become the lowest ranked champion in the history of ATP 1000 events. The all-family final between the 54th-ranked Frenchman Rinderknecht and 204th-ranked Vacherot from Monaco is one of the tournament's unlikely endings to date. The latter's coach and half-brother Benjamin Balleray described it as a fairy tale. It was just the third ATP Masters 1000 final in history to feature two unseeded players. Now, the elder cousin Rick Rinderknecht went ahead in the match after breaking first, but eventually he came back. Now, watched on by Roger Federer for the second set, he continued in much the same vein, with neither player able to make headway early on. But eventually the Frenchman received treatment on his back after the fifth game, having almost broken 4 times. The partial revival made some tense rallies that energized the crowd, but according to ATP, the Monegascan will rocket from 204 to 40th in the rankings. Both men were overcome with emotions during the ceremony, in tears, and Rinderknecht kneeled over and had to be helped into a chair. Now, this all, of course, came after the former world number 1 and Grand Slam champion of 24 events, Novak Djokovic, was knocked out by the world number 204, Valentin Vacherot. The 27-year-old qualifier beat Djokovic 6-3, 6-4 to deny him an extending fifth title in Shanghai, and then he went on to go and beat his cousin. Now, the last time in an ATP tournament where either family members played each other, this is, of course, on the men's tour, was John and Paul McEnroe way back in 1991, which, of course, John won. And then the most famous, of course, finals between siblings, the Venus and Serena Williams. 30-odd times they played each other. 12 finals they played each other in around the world in big tournaments in South Africa. So lots and lots of action, lots and lots of fantastic tennis action over the course of the weekend, as there was in the golf world. And Alex Checker has at last shot a 1 under par 71 to finish a 3-stroke win at the PGA Tour Championships SAS Championship in Carey. A win to remember. On a high-scoring day at Prestonwood Country Club, Checker managed one of the lowest scores of the final round by weathering a slow start and finishing hot. He suffered bogeys on holes 4, 12 and 15, and balanced against birdies on 6 and 13 to leave him with 1 over par going into the final 3 holes. That came in contrast where he shot a tournament best 6 under 66 on Saturday to give him a 3-stroke cushion come into the final round. Fellow German Bernhard Langer, who was second coming into the day, fell off the pace into a tie for 7th at 2 under with his 3 over 75, but he cheered his countrymen on through the difficult conditions. And Xander Schauffele won his first title of the year after finishing a stroke clear of Max Greisemann at the PGA Tour's Bay Current Classic in Japan. The American ended a drought stretching back to his win at the British Open last year, which came 2 months after he claimed his first major at the PGA Championship. Schauffele, who won Olympic gold in Tokyo in 2021, finished on 19 under par after a 7 under final round of 64, containing 8 birdies and a bogey at the Yokohama Country Club. He calmly rolled in a short putt to close out the win, then took his cap off to acknowledge the crowd and embraced his caddy. So well done to him as well. The other golf results at the weekend, Marco Peng, another win for him and a playoff. He beat Daniel Brown in the Open de España. And then Peter Moolman came back to shoot a 66 in the final round to win the Limpopo Championship. A fantastic performance there by Peter Moolman. And then tournaments coming up this week on the schedule. They're already playing the Sun Dev Royal Nairobi event. That's on the Sunshine Tour. And then the DP World Tour is in the Indian capital of New Delhi. And that, of course, is the Delhi Golf Club, where the DP World India Championship takes place. On the Sunshine Tour, the Blue Label Unlimited Challenge at the Gary Player Country Club at Sun City gets underway next week. And the Genesis Championship in Ji-Woong Hills in Shunan is the next tournament on the USPGA Tour. Okay, so lots and lots of rugby and lots of football over the weekend. Let's talk rugby first. And the Stormers have showed up. Wow, the Stormers and the Lions have had diametrically contrasting starts to the Vodacom URC season. It may not be coincidence that they had vastly different build-ups to their respective campaigns. During the transit from Wales to Italy for the next game against Zebra in Parma, the Stormers defence coach Norman Laker would have had a bit of a dilemma to consider. He buys the whole squad donuts when they do rugby's equivalent soccer's keeping a clean sheet. He didn't have to fork out much last season, but the Cape side, with 2 clean sheets and 3 starts, are making a habit of it and will soon be threatening what Laker might consider his disposable income. The Stormers' whitewash of Scarlets in Llanelli at the start of the 3rd round was not perfect. As the late Bok coach Kits Christie said, they left points on the table. In truth, they have been more efficient. They could have been out of sight long before Paul de Villiers has tried just before half-time, but put proper daylight between them and the Scarlets on the scorecard. The significant thing about their most recent win was that it was achieved in their overseas game, with the Cape side not boasting a great record north of the equator. They now have a chance to do and exceed the minimum requirements they set for themselves for 3-match tours. That requirement would have been 2 wins in 3, but a win over Zebra will give them a chance to bid for an unbeaten trip where they finish against Benetton the following week. But there was context to both the Sharks and Bulls losses that there wasn't for the Lions. Leinster, who brought back a lot of their British and Irish Lions for the game, were always going to be tough to beat in Dublin. And while the Sharks did bring back some box, their coach John Plumtree clearly has his eyes on this weekend's first home game against Ulster, as he left several of his top players return home to Durban after the conclusion of the Castle Rugby Championship in London. That included Eben Etzebeth, Oxen, Chessie Kolisi, Grant Williams, and Andre Esterhuizen. Plus, of course, Apele Fasi is injured, while experienced lock Jason Jenkins, a former Leinster player, was forced to pull out on the eve of the Dublin match. Now, Andre Pollard played his first game for the Bulls in several years and only had a few training sessions to get used to the Bulls system. The Bulls were expected to get scrummaging dominance, and they had overall 4 dominance in the first half, but just couldn't convert on a day where it should have been said the refereeing team didn't always help them. As Ulster hung in and prevented the Bulls from scoring, so their confidence grew against a team that understandably didn't gel quite as well as the home team did. Can't find any excuses for Lions, though. The only possible advantage to be had for them treating the Currie Cup more seriously than the other URC franchises did was that they might be more battle-hardened at the start. It hasn't turned out that way, and frankly, the Lions already look jaded and maybe playing a tough playoff game when they should have been having their final rest-up between the pre-season and the start of the season opener. So let's look at the weekend results. The Scarlets 0, the Stormers 34, Munster 20, Edinburgh 19, Ospreys 24, Zebras 0, Benetton 41, Lions 15, the Warriors 49, the Dragons 0, Leinster 31, Sharks 5, Cardiff 14, Connacht 8, and Ulster 28. The Vodacom Bulls just 7. And we will look at the fixtures for you coming up in the United Rugby Championship. Friday night, 3 games. Dragons play Cardiff, Edinburgh play Benetton, and Connacht play the Bulls. All games there start at 9:15. And then on Saturday at home, the Lions against the Llanelli Scarlets at Ellis Park. Then at 4 o'clock, the Sharks at Kings Park play Ulster. Leinster will host Munster at 6:15. Zebras host the Stormers at 9:15. And Ospreys play Glasgow at the same time. So lots of rugby action coming up this weekend. Right, let's go now to football and have a look. And, of course, World Cup in Europe and in Africa. And even though South Africa's chances of qualifying automatically for the World Cup next year took a dent with a goalless draw against Zimbabwe, still is an outside chance that South Africa can get through. But as many South African fans would have done, if you remember back to 2010 when South Africa were eliminated in the first round of the FIFA World Cup, we all decided we would take on Ghana as our team, Bagana, as opposed to Bafana. Well, we can shout for Bagana because they have become the latest African team to book their place at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. They defeated in their qualifier at the Accra Stadium last night. The evening also featured a win for Burkina Faso in their hopes of reaching the playoffs, while Egypt closed out their campaign unbeaten. The Black Stars were positioned at the top of Group I, and they ensured a 5th qualification for the World Cup, adding to appearances in 2006, 2010, 2014, and 2022, with a 1-0 win over Comores secured by a goal early in the second half from Mohamed Kudus. So they are into the next phase of the competition, the tournament proper. Elsewhere in the group, Madagascar hopes of moving up. The runners-up rankings were given a massive blow. They suffered a 4-1 thrashing at the hands of Mali in Bamako. Yako and Dorjiles Nene and Gausu Diarra, effectively ending hopes of appearances for the Madagascans. Now, Burkina Faso, on the other hand, being one of the top 4 runners-up after they 3-1 in a Group A match in Ouagadougou, The Stallions still needed some heroics from their substitute, Pierre Kapore, who came off the bench just after the hour mark and got a hat-trick to see them get their 3 points. So all those results from yesterday: Zambia 0, Niger 1, Chad 2, Central African Republic 3, Djibouti 1, Sierra Leone 2, Mali 4, Madagascar 1, Ghana 1, Comoros 0, Egypt 1, Guinea-Bissau 0, and Burkina Faso 3, Ethiopia 1. Now, as far as the scenario is concerned with regards to the South Africans, well, it's going to be a very difficult situation for them. Both the Bafana captain Ronwen Williams and the Nigeria's coach Eric Chelle issued chilling warnings to Rwanda and Benin. South Africa and Nigeria don't have the fate in their own hands, with the two sides needing to win their matches and then hope that results elsewhere go favourably for them. Williams has urged fans to come in their numbers tomorrow night, saying the team wants to rewrite the wrongs of the past and celebrate genuine success at the Mbombela Stadium. Now, Bafana captain is obviously hoping that there will be a better situation. 3 teams are the only ones in their group that can still finish in first place to automatically qualify for the next World Cup. To achieve that, they must overcome games that will be fierce due to the points they are looking to prove. South Africa versus Rwanda and Nigeria versus Benin. So South Africa's World Cup dream isn't completely in their hands. They must beat Rwanda and then hope that Nigeria beat Benin. A draw in Uyo will need Bafana to win with a 2-0 margin against Rwanda at the Mbombela Stadium. That's if Nigeria draw their match. So both matches kick off at exactly the same time, 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. Rwanda crushed Bafana's party in 2023, fresh from beating Benin in Durban 3 days before to record South Africa's first ever win in their opening match in World Cup qualifiers. Bafana were brought crushing down to earth in Butare with a 2-0 loss there. So Bafana have left Durban and headed to Mbombela, where they face Rwanda in that match tomorrow evening. The match, in a way, has toughened Bafana. Bruce and his team took every challenge thrown in their direction. The coach and his captain both held their tongues when their 2-0 win over Lesotho was erased due to Bafana fielding a suspended Tebogo Mokoena. The 3 points were had Lesotho, along with a 3-0 victory. Now, the Super Eagles need to beat Benin with a 3-0 margin or more and hope that Bafana don't beat Rwanda. A familiar foe will lead Benin and Uyo in the form of Nigeria's coach, Gernot Rohr. So it's all to play for. It's going to be a very, very big evening indeed as far as the matches are concerned in those World Cup qualifiers. Give you what the fixtures look like for tomorrow evening. Tonight and tomorrow, of course. Equatorial Guinea play Liberia, South Sudan play Togo. These are all today. Sao Tome and Principe play Malawi. Tunisia play Namibia, Cape Verde play Eswatini, Cameroon play Angola, Lesotho play Zimbabwe, with Mauritius playing against Libya. Then tomorrow, Seychelles against Gambia, and then 6 o'clock kickoffs for Algeria, Uganda, Guinea against Botswana, Nigeria against Benin, Somalia against Mozambique, South Africa against Rwanda. The DRC play Sudan at 9 o'clock, the Ivory Coast play Kenya at the same time, Gabon play Burundi, Morocco play Congo, and Senegal play Mauritania. So the fact that the 2 games are kicking off at the same time, the Nigeria-Benin game and the South Africa-Rwanda game, means there can be, hopefully, no skullduggery and no contrived results either. Now, just as far as the qualifiers in the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup is concerned, there was obviously a lot of action as far as the teams in Europe are concerned as well. That continues on in the FIFA World Cup, European World Cup qualifiers. Now, let's just give you some of the fixtures. So yesterday's results over the weekend. Yesterday saw Croatia beat Gibraltar 2-0. The Netherlands beat Finland 4-0. Scotland beat Belarus 2-1. Their hopes of qualifying still continue